Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I'm 17 now, turned 17 a few months ago actually. My mom remarried when I was 14, and my stepmom has been pretty great. She's always been really open with me about health stuff and making sure I take care of myself. When I turned 17, she suggested I should visit her gynecologist just to get familiar with the place and learn the basics about when I'd need to start going for regular appointments. I wasn't super excited about it, honestly, but I knew it was one of those responsible adult things I needed to start doing. The appointment was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. I drove myself there because my stepmom had to work and I wanted to prove I could handle this kind of thing on my own. The medical building was pretty busy when I got there, but I managed to find a parking spot without too much trouble. I pulled in, turned off my car and grabbed my phone to check the time before heading inside. When I stepped out of my car and pressed the button on my key fob to lock it, I heard a car pull up behind me. I turned around and saw this woman in a silver sedan with her window rolled down, staring at me. She asked if I was leaving and if she could have my parking spot. I told her I was just locking my car because I had an appointment, but she didn't drive away. Instead, she leaned further out her window. She asked how long I was going to be because she was in a hurry. I explained it was my first time at this office, so I didn't know how long I'd be. I apologized and told her I had to go because I didn't want to be late to my appointment. I started walking toward the building entrance because I genuinely didn't want to be late. My appointment was in about 10 minutes, and I still needed to find the right office and fill out paperwork, but then I heard her car door slam. She started screaming at me, calling me a little witch, and demanding I move my car. She yelled that it was her favorite spot. I stopped for a second, completely shocked. Did she really just call me that over a parking spot? I turned back to look at her and she was standing next to her car, pointing at me and my vehicle like I committed some kind of crime. Her face was red and she looked absolutely furious. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her off, but another part of me just wanted to get away from this crazy situation. I decided the best thing to do was just keep walking, so that's what I did. I turned back toward the building and kept going, but she didn't stop. She kept screaming after me. She shouted, asking if I heard her, saying that spot was hers and she parked there every time. She demanded I move my car right now. Other people in the parking lot were starting to stare. An older man getting out of his truck a few spaces away looked concerned. A woman walking toward the building with her daughter sped up to get past the scene. I felt my face getting hot with embarrassment, but I wasn't about to give in to this woman's tantrum. I reached the door to the building and pulled it open. Even when I stepped inside, I could still hear her yelling something, though I couldn't make out the words anymore through the glass. My hands were shaking a little when I walked up to the directory to find which floor the office was on. The whole time I was riding the elevator up to the third floor, I kept thinking about what had just happened. What kind of person acts like that over a parking spot? And calling me names when I was just trying to get to my appointment, it didn't make any sense. When I got to the office and checked in at the front desk, the receptionist was really nice. She handed me a clipboard with forms to fill out and told me to have a seat. I sat down in one of the chairs in the waiting room and tried to focus on the paperwork, but my mind kept drifting back to the woman in the parking lot. I thought about telling the receptionist what happened, but I wasn't sure what good it would do. The woman hadn't actually done anything to me besides yell. She hadn't touched me or damaged my car. She was just incredibly rude and entitled. Would the office even care? Would they do anything about it? I decided not to say anything for now, but I did make sure to memorize her license plate number. I'm pretty good at remembering details like that, and I'd gotten a clear look at her car and the plate when she was yelling at me. I also made a mental note of what she looked like, just in case. The appointment itself went fine. The doctor was really informative and made me feel comfortable talking about everything. She explained when I'd need to start coming for regular checkups and what to expect. By the time I left the office, I'd almost forgotten about the parking lot incident. Almost. When I got back down to the parking lot, I was relieved to see that the woman's silver sedan was gone. My car was exactly where I'd left it, completely untouched. I got in, started the engine, and sat there for a moment. I thought about texting my stepmom right away to tell her what happened, but then I decided to wait until I got home. This seemed like the kind of story that needed to be told in person, plus I was still processing it all. I've loved cooking for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I'd watch my mom in the kitchen, and there was something calming about the whole process. Chopping vegetables, watching ingredients transform into something delicious. The smell filling the apartment. When I moved out for college and got my own place with a roommate, cooking became my escape from the stress of classes and work. I'd spend Sunday afternoons meal prepping for the week, trying new recipes I found online, experimenting with spices. It wasn't just about eating, it was therapy. My roommate thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I don't know when it started exactly, but every single time I stepped into the kitchen, he had something to say. The first few times I just brushed it off. We were still getting to know each other, and I figured maybe that was just his sense of humor. But it kept going and going, making scrambled eggs in the morning. He'd call me Chef Boyardee and ask if I was finally awake. Cutting up chicken for a stir-fry, he'd ask if I was training for a cooking show or something. Literally, just boiling pasta? He'd compare me to Gordon Ramsay and joke about getting my autograph. Every single time I tried laughing it off, I tried ignoring him, I even tried explaining that I just genuinely enjoyed it, but that only made it worse. He'd mock me for being sensitive about it. The jokes got meaner, more pointed, like he was trying to see how far he could push me. It wasn't just when we were alone, he'd do it in front of people. A few weeks ago, I invited some friends over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a casual hangout. I decided to make chili because it's easy to scale up and everyone loves it. I've been simmering it for hours, getting the flavors just right. The apartment smelled amazing. My friends were hanging out in the living room, chatting and laughing, and I was in the kitchen doing final touches. Then my roommate came home. He walked straight to the stove, lifted the lid off the pot, and took this big, exaggerated sniff. Then he announced loudly that it smelled like ass and hoped nobody would die from food poisoning. He said it loud enough that everyone in the living room heard. They all laughed. Not mean laughs, just uncomfortable ones like they didn't know if he was joking or not. I forced a smile and stirred the chili, pretending it didn't bother me. But inside, I was done. I spent that whole dinner thinking about it. My friends loved the food. They went back for seconds and thirds. But the whole night was tainted by that one comment. I couldn't shake it. So I decided to teach him a lesson. My roommate has this habit. Every night, like clockwork, he raids the fridge around 1 in the morning. He never cooks, never meal preps, just waits until I make something and then helps himself to whatever's in there. I'd gotten used to it. Most of the time I didn't care because I made extra anyway. But now I had a plan. I spent the next Sunday making a huge batch of spaghetti. Plain noodles, nothing fancy. But instead of mixing them with marinara or Alfredo or anything normal, I tossed them with beet juice. Just enough to stain them this deep, dark red color. It looked disturbing, like something you'd see in a horror movie. Bloody, slick noodles sitting in a container. I put it on the top shelf of the fridge with a label that said it was for my roommate in big letters. Then I waited. That night I stayed up late in my room with the door cracked just enough to hear the kitchen. Sure enough, at 1 in the morning, I heard the fridge open, the sound of a container being pulled out, the microwave beeping. 10 minutes later, my door flew open. My roommate stood there pale as a ghost, holding the empty container. His hands were shaking. He asked me why the noodles had been bleeding, his voice cracking with panic. I looked up from my phone, keeping my face completely neutral. I told him it was a special recipe I'd learned, and assured him not to worry because the iron taste was completely normal. His eyes went wide. He dropped the container on my desk and bolted to the bathroom. I heard him gagging, the sound of the sink running, him dry heaving. It went on for a while. I just sat there scrolling through my phone, trying not to laugh. He spent the rest of the night convinced he'd eaten raw meat pasta or something equally horrific. I could hear him pacing in his room, talking to himself. At one point, I think he Googled whether you could get sick from eating blood. The next morning, he looked like he hadn't slept at all. He was sitting at the kitchen table staring at his coffee like it held the answers to the universe. I walked in, grabbed the beet juice bottle from the fridge, and set it down in front of him. I told him it was just beets. He stared at the bottle, then at me, then back at the bottle. His face went through about 5 different emotions before settling on pure humiliation. He didn't say anything, just got up and walked to his room. Since then, things have been different. He labeled his own shelf in the fridge. Hasn't touched anything I've cooked. When friends come over now and I'm in the kitchen, he just sits quietly on the couch. Sometimes I catch him staring at whatever I'm making like it might come alive and attack him. Last weekend, I made lasagna. He didn't say a word, just watched me pull it out of the oven, cut into it, serve it to our friends. When someone offered him a slice, he shook his head and said something about not being hungry. One of my friends asked if he was feeling okay, pointing out that he never turns down free food and wondering if he was sick. My roommate looked at me, then at the lasagna, then back at my friend. He said he was fine and just wasn't in the mood. I didn't say anything, just smiled and took another bite. It's been 3 weeks now. The kitchen is finally peaceful. No more comments about cutting boards or autographs or food poisoning, just silence. Beautiful, satisfying silence. For context, I'm a 26-year-old mom with a 7-month-old daughter. My husband works long hours in construction management, so I'm usually the one handling daytime errands and baby duties. Yesterday was supposed to be a quick trip to pick up groceries and some baby supplies. Nothing special, just another Tuesday afternoon. I had parked near the entrance and was loading bags into the trunk of my car. My daughter was secured in her stroller right next to me, maybe 2 feet away. She was awake, playing with this little stuffed giraffe toy she loves. I had just placed the last bag in the trunk when I heard my phone ring from inside the car. It was my husband, probably checking if I needed him to grab anything on his way home. I turned away for literally 5 seconds to reach for my phone through the open car door. That's all it took. When I turned back around, I saw a woman in her 40s speed walking away with my daughter's stroller. At first, my brain couldn't process what was happening. I thought maybe I was confused, maybe she had a similar stroller, and I was just disoriented. But no, that was definitely my stroller, and that was definitely my baby still strapped inside. I yelled at her to stop screaming that it was my baby. The woman didn't even look back. She just kept pushing the stroller faster, heading toward the far end of the parking lot. My heart stopped. Pure terror flooded through me. I dropped my phone and started running after her, screaming at the top of my lungs. I begged for somebody to help me, shouting that she was taking my baby. I'm not a fast runner, and this woman had a decent head start. She was moving with purpose, like she'd done this before. My legs felt like jelly, but adrenaline kept me going. Other shoppers were starting to notice, some pulling out their phones, others just standing there frozen. The woman yelled over her shoulder that the baby was hers, claiming this was her granddaughter. She yelled this without slowing down. This complete stranger was trying to justify kidnapping my child right in front of witnesses. I screamed that she was a liar and begged someone to stop her. That's when I saw him. This teenage boy, maybe 16 or 17, with a skateboard under his arm. He was near the store entrance with what looked like his friends. The moment he processed what was happening, he dropped his skateboard and took off like an Olympic sprinter. I've never seen anyone run that fast. He closed the distance in seconds while I was still struggling to keep up. The woman must have heard his footsteps because she tried to speed up even more, but she was pushing a stroller and couldn't move fast enough. The teenager didn't hesitate. He grabbed the back of her jacket and yanked her backward, away from the stroller. She stumbled and tried to keep her grip on the stroller handle, but he was stronger. She started screaming and clawing at him. The woman shrieked at him to get off her, insisting that this was her granddaughter and threatening to call the police. The teenager shouted back that the police were already coming and demanded she let go of the stroller. She wouldn't let go. She was fighting him, trying to pull the stroller back toward her. My daughter started crying that piercing wail that only a terrified baby can make. The sound pushed me to run even faster. The teenager managed to pry her hands off the stroller handle and pushed her away. But she came back at him, scratching at his face and screaming obscenities. He shoved her back harder this time, and that's when everything went wrong for her. She lost her balance completely. Her feet went out from under her, and she fell backward. I heard the sound before I saw it, a sickening crack when the back of her head hit the concrete parking lot. She went completely limp. The teenager stumbled back, his hands up, looking terrified. I finally reached my baby's stroller and immediately checked on my daughter. She was crying but unharmed, still strapped in safely. I scooped her up, holding her tight against my chest, sobbing with relief. Other shoppers had gathered around by then. Someone said they'd already called the police. The woman was lying on the ground, not moving, blood starting to pool under her head. One of the bystanders, an older man who said he was a retired nurse, knelt down to check on her but told everyone not to move her. I asked if she was okay, my voice shaking. The retired nurse said she was breathing but needed an ambulance right away. He warned everyone not to move her because of possible head trauma. The police arrived within minutes, followed quickly by an ambulance. Paramedics rushed to the woman and carefully secured her neck before loading her onto a stretcher. She was still unconscious. I gave my statement to the police, explaining everything that happened. Multiple witnesses backed up my story, and several people had recorded parts of the incident on their phones. The teenager also gave his statement. His hands were shaking the whole time. He explained that he saw her running with the stroller and heard me screaming. He said he didn't think, just reacted. The police officer told him he wasn't in trouble and had potentially saved my daughter from being kidnapped. They took his contact information and told him he might need to testify if this went to court. I thanked him at least a dozen times. I was crying so hard I could barely get the words out. He just kept saying he was glad my baby was safe. His friends came over and they all left together, though I could tell the whole thing had shaken him up. The police told me the woman would be facing multiple charges including attempted kidnapping and child endangerment. They said they'd question her once she regained consciousness at the hospital. I later found out through a detective who called me that she had no connection to my family whatsoever and couldn't explain why she tried to take my daughter. They suspected possible mental health issues, but that didn't make what she did any less terrifying. My husband came straight from work when I called him. We stayed at the police station for hours, finishing everything up. I held my daughter the entire time, refusing to put her down. That woman left in an ambulance with a serious head injury. The last I heard, she was in stable condition, but facing serious criminal charges. I still have nightmares about those few seconds when I couldn't reach my baby. I've been living in this house for 8 years. My ex and I bought it together back when we were in our early 20s, young and stupid, and thinking we could fix up this disaster of a property while also fixing our relationship. Spoiler alert, we couldn't do either. The house was a complete mess when we got it. Holes in the walls, ancient wiring, a kitchen from the 70s that looked like it might give you tetanus just from looking at it. But it was ours, or at least it was going to be. We scraped together everything we had for the deposit. I put in most of it, but he contributed about £5,000. Things fell apart between us pretty quickly after we moved in. The stress of the renovations, the money problems, all of it just exposed the cracks that were already there. We'd known each other since we were kids, grew up on the same street, so when we broke up, we tried to keep things civil. I bought him out of his share of the house, but because we'd been friends for so long, I told him I'd give him back his portion of the deposit when I eventually sold the place. Seemed fair at the time. Getting him to actually leave was horrible though. He can be fine most of the time, joking around, acting like the friend I grew up with. But when he gets upset about something, he completely changes. He goes to war, I call it. He'll blow up your phone, drag other people into it, make your life miserable until he gets what he wants. That's why I was so specific about the deposit coming from the sale. I put it in messages, made sure it was clear. I wasn't just going to hand him $5,000 and then have him turn around and say I still owed him money when the house sold. So I spent 8 years turning this place into an actual home. I fixed the wiring myself with help from YouTube videos. I tore out that awful kitchen and installed a new one. I patched every hole, painted every wall, refinished the floors. It was exhausting and expensive, and sometimes I wanted to just give up and sell it to whoever would take it, but I didn't. I made it beautiful. A few months ago, I decided it was finally time to move on. I wanted to downsize, maybe travel a bit, just start fresh somewhere else. So I put the house on the market and told my ex that the sale process had started. He asked me if I gotten any offers yet. I told him I had a few, but they were mostly from landlords. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and I should have known what was coming. He asked me what I meant by mostly landlords, his voice already taking on an edge. I explained that a few property investors had made offers on the place. Then he asked if I was going to take one of those offers to get it done quickly. We'd been through this exact situation years ago when we were trying to buy a place. We'd make an offer on a starter home, something affordable in a lower income area, and every single time we'd get outbid by some landlord who wanted to turn it into a rental. It was devastating. We looked at dozens of houses and kept losing them to investors who didn't care about making it a home, just about making money. I told him no, I wasn't selling to a landlord. I reminded him that he knew exactly how I felt about that. He asked if I was being serious right now, telling me to just take the money so he could get his deposit back. I said I was waiting for the right buyer, a family who actually needed this house. He said he needed his money now, emphasizing the word £5,000. He pointed out that I'd had 8 years to pay him back. I reminded him that we'd agreed the money would come from the sale, that it had always been the deal. He said he didn't care about the deal anymore and demanded I sell the house to whoever would buy it fastest. That's when he really started losing it. My phone started buzzing constantly. Calls, texts, voice messages. He was furious that I wouldn't just take the landlord's offer and get him his money immediately. He didn't care that this was exactly what we'd fought against when we were buying. He didn't care that some young couple or small family would lose out on this house, just like we almost lost out all those years ago. Then my parents called. My mom started by saying that my ex had called them and that he was very upset about the house sale. I told her I knew that he wanted me to sell to a landlord just so he could get his money faster. My dad asked if it would really be so bad to just take one of those offers and get it done with. I said yes, it would be bad. I explained that this house should go to people who need it, not someone's property portfolio. My mom suggested that since I've been trying to sell for months, maybe it was time to just accept a good offer when I got one. I told her I wasn't in a rush and could wait for the right buyer. They kept gently pushing, trying to make me see his side of things, but they didn't understand. They hadn't spent years getting outbid by investors. They hadn't poured their heart and soul into making this place a real home only to watch it become just another rental property with the cheapest possible fixtures and some poor family paying ridiculous rent for it. The messages kept coming. He was relentless, switching between guilt trips and anger and trying to get mutual friends involved. This was my house now, my decision, and I'd waited too long to let it go to the wrong person. Then, 3 weeks after all this started, I got an offer from a young couple with a baby. They'd been saving for years, got rejected from dozens of properties because they kept getting outbid by cash buyers and landlords. They walked through the house and the woman actually cried because it was perfect for them and they were so scared they'd lose it to someone else. I accepted their offer that same day. It was slightly less than what the landlords had offered, but I didn't care. When I told my ex the house had sold, he immediately demanded his money. I told him he'd get it at completion, just like we'd always agreed. He said finally, at least this nightmare was over. I casually mentioned that I'd sold it to a lovely young family. There was a pause, then he asked me to wait, asking if I hadn't taken the landlord offer. I said nope. He asked if I was kidding him, saying I could have sold it weeks ago. I told him I'd sold it to people who actually needed it, just like we needed it 8 years ago. He lost his mind completely, but I didn't care anymore. The completion went through, the family moved in, and I transferred him his £5,000 from the sale proceeds, exactly like we'd agreed. He got his money, and I got the satisfaction of knowing that house was a home again, not just an investment property. Worth the wait. I've been working in tech support for about 4 years now. Worked my way up from help desk to a client-facing role on a small team. 8 of us total, handling demos, troubleshooting and account management for mid-sized business clients. The pay is decent, The work is mostly fine, and honestly, I like most of my coworkers. We got a good rhythm going, or at least we did until about 6 months ago, when one of my teammates started making every single day feel like walking on eggshells. Let me give you some context. I'm not someone who loves confrontation. I do my job, I help people when they need it, and I try to keep things smooth. I've always believed that if you have a problem with someone, you talk to them directly, or you let it go. But there's this one person on my team who operates differently. She's the type who will turn a paper cut into a gunshot wound and then blame you for bleeding. It all came to a head last week during a client demo. I was presenting our new dashboard feature to a potential customer, walking them through the interface, answering questions. Everything was going smoothly until about 15 minutes in when my laptop just froze. Complete screen freeze, no warning, no spinning wheel, just dead. I panicked. I'm not going to lie about that. I started frantically clicking, then I realized I needed to reboot, so I told the client to hold on 1 second. While my laptop was restarting, I grabbed my phone and rejoined the call from there so they wouldn't just be sitting in silence. It was messy, sure, but I got back on within maybe 2 minutes and finished the demo. The client seemed fine with it. They even laughed it off and said technology always picks the worst moments. But when I got back on screen, my teammate was sitting there with this look on her face. You know the look. The one that says she's about to make your problem her stage. She rolled her eyes so dramatically, I could see it even through the video call. Then she unmuted herself and told me that what just happened was really unprofessional. She said I completely ruined the flow of the call. I tried to laugh it off and apologized, explaining that my laptop decided to take a nap, but we were back on track now. The client agreed and said it was no worries at all, that these things happen. But she wasn't done. After the call ended, she posted in our main Slack channel, the one where all 8 of us plus our manager hang out. She wrote that some people really need to learn how to behave under pressure. She said that if you can't handle a demo without making mountains out of molehills, maybe you should practice more before going live with clients. I sat there staring at my screen. Making mountains out of molehills? My laptop froze. I didn't throw it out a window or burst into tears. I handled it and moved on. But here's the thing about her. She's loud. She's confident. And when she says something with enough conviction, people just sort of believe her. Or at least they don't want to get on her bad side, so they stay quiet. A few people gave her message these little clapping emojis, 12 claps total, like she'd just delivered some wisdom from the mountaintop instead of publicly shaming me for a tech malfunction. I felt embarrassed. My manager sent me a private message later with the usual pep talk about how I did fine and tech issues happen and not to worry about it. But it still stung. And honestly, I was annoyed. Because this wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. So I decided to do something about it. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would get me in trouble. Just something thorough. For the next 3 weeks, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. And it turned out I didn't have to look very hard. She complained in the main Slack channel when the office thermostat was set to 71 instead of 70. She sent a message with 4 exclamation points about how some people don't care about creating a comfortable work environment. She completely lost it when the shared printer ran out of paper. She posted in the channel about how unprofessional it was that no one refilled it and how she shouldn't have to parent grown adults. Someone on the team forgot to attach a slide deck to an email once. Her response in Slack was a full paragraph about how she cannot possibly do this alone and how teamwork means everyone pulls their weight, not just some of us. Every single one of these messages was public, posted in channels where our manager could see, where the head of the people team could see, all time-stamped, all documented automatically by Slack itself. After 3 weeks, I had 8 separate incidents. 8 times she publicly shamed someone or escalated something minor like the building was on fire. I took screenshots of each one. I didn't edit them. I didn't add snarky comments. I just put them in a PDF with timestamps and a one-line note of context for each. Things like thermostat complaint, March 14th, or printer paper incident, March 18th. I titled the document Communication Patterns Affecting Team Morale and wrote a short email to my manager and the head of people. Just one line explaining that this document shows recurring public escalation and shaming behavior that is starting to affect the team. Then I did one more thing. I scheduled a 30-minute meeting called Team Retrospective. I invited everyone on the team, including her, my manager, and someone from people. The day of the meeting I opened was the PDF. I put it up on the screen as the first agenda item. I explained that I wanted to talk about how we give feedback publicly. I told everyone that I think there's a pattern happening that's affecting how we work together, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. She tried to interrupt immediately. She said she was just being direct and that she thinks it's important to give constructive feedback when people make mistakes. I didn't argue. I just clicked to the first screenshot. I explained that this was March 14th, a message about the thermostat. I clicked to the next one and said, this was March 18th about the printer. I went through all 8 screenshots this way. No commentary, no insults, just timestamps and her own words on the screen. The room got quiet. A couple people looked at their phones. One person shifted in their chair. The person from people started taking notes. The person from people asked how this kind of communication makes the rest of us feel. One of my teammates spoke up quietly and admitted that, honestly, it makes them nervous to post anything in Slack. They said they're always worried they're going to mess up and get called out. Another teammate nodded in agreement. My manager looked uncomfortable but thanked me for bringing this up. She tried to defend herself again. She explained that she was just trying to keep everyone accountable and didn't mean for anyone to feel attacked. The person from people responded by saying they think what we're seeing here is a pattern of public feedback that might be better handled privately. They suggested that going forward, we should work on creating a more supportive environment where feedback is given one-on-one instead of in group channels. My manager agreed and said they would work with the people team to develop some guidelines around this. They also mentioned they would be offering coaching sessions for anyone who wanted to work on their communication style. She sat there while all of this happened. The receipts were literally on the projector screen. Her own words, her own timestamps. Nothing I said or did, just what she had already put out there for everyone to see. The meeting ended with the people team setting up a plan for more private feedback channels and some coaching sessions. She had to sit through all of it while her greatest hits played on loop behind me. I didn't call her out in a humiliating personal way. I didn't spread rumors or talk behind her back. I just used company channels and the public messages she herself made to show the pattern. I let her own behavior speak for itself. Since then, she's been unusually polite in public Slack. She still complains, I'm sure, but now it's not a team show every time something minor goes wrong. The irony is not lost on me that she was the one who kept telling people to be more professional in group chat, and now she's the one who had to learn that lesson. She also keeps complimenting my work now, which is honestly kind of funny. Last week she told me I did a great job on a client presentation. The week before that she praised my documentation skills in the main channel. I think she is trying to prove she can be nice in public too. The rest of the team seems more relaxed now. People post questions without worrying about getting torn apart. Someone made a small mistake on a report yesterday, and instead of a public call out, they just got a private message with a correction. The way it should have been all along. I'm not saying I'm some kind of hero. I just got tired of watching someone make everyone else miserable and then act like she was doing us all a favor. No drama, no yelling, just facts and timestamps. And you know what? It worked. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.